For reasons that are unclear to me, Hollywood keeps trying to make Tomb Raider a thing. Now, growing up in the era that I did, obviously the games were a big part of my upbringing. I have a lot of love and admiration for them. But as far as Lara Croft's transition to the big screen, it's been sketchy. From the Angelina Jolie films to the 2018 reboot, none of this really struck a chord with me in the way that the games did. So we are left asking ourselves, once again, are some things better left in the past? Are some things better left in the medium they were created in and not meant to be translated? Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Now, from the outside looking in, if you have any knowledge of the Tomb Raider franchise, it would seem to be a story that translates very easily to film because the games are already quite cinematic.
That makes sense.
But for some reason, after many attempts, Hollywood has never really been able to crack the Tomb Raider code, as they desperately try to capitalize on every single pre-existing IP possible. And now we have news that they are going to try it once again, because a live-action Tomb Raider series is officially moving forward at Prime Video. And Phoebe Waller-Bridge herself will write the series but will not star. Now, this announcement has already caused a considerable amount of backlash online, with some pointing out her recent involvement in the finale of the Indiana Jones franchise as a big reason why she shouldn't be anywhere near a Tomb Raider adaptation. Now, Dial of Destiny was a colossal failure, of course, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character in that movie was incredibly unlikable. But to be fair, she had no hand in writing that film or crafting that story in any way.
It's true.
That movie was most likely a mess due to the regular incompetence of Disney Lucasfilm as a whole. But the optics tell us that she was already part of one big adventure franchise being ruined, and it's kind of ironic that she now has an even bigger role creatively with another franchise that clearly took inspiration from Indiana Jones. Hollywood really is the only place on Earth that you can fail upward so spectacularly. Now, I understand she had much success early in her career with shows like Fleabag and Killing Eve, two shows that I have never watched, but would honestly seem to be more in her wheelhouse. But dipping your toes into established IPs with built-in fan bases and lore, that's a different animal altogether. And it's definitely not something to be taken lightly.
Good luck. You're gonna need it.
Let's not forget that Phoebe Waller-Bridge also has ties with the first Star Wars movie to not turn a profit. Of course, I'm talking about Solo: A Star Wars Story. Again, it's not her fault that it failed, but at the same time, in that film, she once again played the most obnoxious character in the entire story. Even if we take a look at her writing credits, post-Fleabag success, we have yet another massive red flag with her being responsible for the script to the last James Bond film, No Time to Die. A film that left a bad taste in some longtime fans' mouths, if I remember correctly. But again, all of this contributes to the fact that she's been connected with a lot of questionable creative decisions with popular franchises.
Why do these things always happen to me?
Which brings me back to Tomb Raider, and Phoebe herself has said that she's been a longtime fan of the character, which would seem to be a positive in this situation if we are taking things at face value. But if you look at the bigger picture, it's really hard for me to come to terms with the idea that Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the best person for this job. And on top of that, she could be getting set up for failure. And you might ask, why do I say that? Well, I've already talked about how Tomb Raider has been difficult to adapt for many reasons. And I think the biggest reason for that is that maybe some things just aren't meant to be adapted. The reason that Hollywood usually has so many issues adapting video games to films is that they typically do not understand the material, and they do not understand what the fans of the games like about them. And they can't resist the urge to change things about the core story to, in their eyes, make things more cinematically pleasing. In reality, people like these games for a reason, and as I've already stated, Tomb Raider is already pretty cinematic. To me, the key to adapting video games to movies is not changing things so much that it becomes unrecognizable.
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
You don't want to move things so far away from the key elements of the franchise that it becomes undesirable to the diehards who have been here the whole time. The key is to find balance between bringing the game to life in a way that appeases fans, and also injecting Hollywood magic into it in the best scenario, and hopefully bringing in new fans who might not know about the franchise. Video game adaptations are typically not able to do that, and to me that's a big reason why they usually fail. The question is Phoebe Waller-Bridge the person to find that balance with Tomb Raider? That remains to be seen, but I am skeptical, and I think rightfully so. Another massive red flag to me about this project is that it's being set up at Amazon. To me, a company that has a checkered past when it comes to resurrecting established franchises in a way that's satisfying to everyone. I know that some of you might point to the recent success of the Fallout series as a reason to be optimistic. To be fair, I haven't seen that show all the way through, but what I have seen of it didn't really hold my attention, which is kind of odd coming from someone like me who is a longtime diehard Fallout fan. So for me personally, that really doesn't help Amazon's case either. I think making the Tomb Raider story a series on streaming instead of a movie will probably benefit the project in the long run. It will be convenient to watch for some people, and that typically results in people overhyping the content because they desperately want people to believe, for whatever reason, that streaming services are putting out the best content right now.
Absolutely not.
I personally believe that most streaming services take a quantity over quality approach just to justify increasing subscription fees. That's not to say that they don't produce something worthwhile here and there, but if I'm being honest, the abundance of streaming content has kind of made me numb to the whole format. But that's more of a personal thing, and I recognize that. I'm just more of a movie person anyway. On the flip side of that, a streaming service does give you the opportunity and the time to flesh out characters and stories a bit more. I could definitely see a globe-trotting, treasure-hunting adventure fitting in nicely on this format. The question is, as always, is once this series comes out, will anyone actually care? And I think that is a valid question. That's not to say that Lara Croft isn't a worthy and recognizable and even likable character, but we do have to consider that her other live-action appearances have failed to move the needle. And it's starting to feel like Lara Croft doesn't have the crossover appeal that Amazon and Hollywood in general feels like she does.
How can you not care?
Like this.
Now, presentation is everything, and you could argue that she's yet to be presented in the best light. But as far as Phoebe Waller-Bridge being the right person to do that, again, I am skeptical. I guess only time will tell, but if you ask me personally, I'm just over these companies trying to milk these established IPs. It hardly ever works anymore, and oftentimes it does more damage to the property than it does enhance it. I think if companies like Amazon spent more time investing in fresh ideas rather than rehashing old shit, it might go a long way to making people like me give a shit more about their content.
Y'all be cool. Right on.